I will record it anyway. But today, I wanted to speak about supply chain management. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
The presentation.
Yes, good. Is it big enough? Wait a second. So today is about supply chain management, and before we start, we have spoken about ERP systems and which content and how it is integrated. And now I want to proceed with the first part, client quote. So for any deal you make, you usually start with a proposal, with a quote, with a request for proposal quote, or with a budgetary quote. And this is how it looks like when you get it out of an ERP system. So I have taken an example for Versa. You see it here. These are routers, rather small routers for teller machines, where you can get your money. You need them to get in contact with a main server and for making the transaction if you pull out money from a teller machine, from a banking machine. You see here in this case, these are 810. So this is the amount of teller machines. Here you see the cost, and this is what you can see if you create a quote in an ERP system, the quoting. We have spoken about controlling, about ERP, what it does, and one of the functions is to create or generate such quotes. And you see here, it gets automatically. You just have to click on the product and the product code. You see that here on the left side. And the line number. You see here, the router is not just enough. You also will need a line interface card. You see that here, which you put into the router. On top of that, you need kind of a service. You see here, it's a next business day advanced shipment port, and you have kind of a replace support for these small routers. Also, you will need, or the client asked for training, and even trainings and configurations for users have a certain pricing. In this case, they asked for 10 trainings for 10 people, for 10 users who are managing these small routers. And you see here, this equals then to the amount of $8,000 in total. Yeah. You also need some licenses and services. This is this part here. You see, it's a 3-year service, which you buy on top of that. So, so it's also the content, some analytics, orchestration platform, and here again the service, which is next business day. So this means if one of these routers breaks down, you have a service which starts next business day, which means if it breaks, you have to wait until the next day until you get a replacement device. For all of this, you get a price in total, and you see the tax, which equals then to the total amount of 1.6 million US dollar. Please ask me if you have questions on that. So you see here, this quote has a certain number. In this case, 16583, and it's QT. This is the quoting tool of the ERP system, which creates such numbers. System. In version 3, you can see here 2 other quotes have been created before. And from here you can see either the client asked for a change in the requirement, or the demand changed. This is why you then sometimes have to change the whole quote. But this quote is basis for an ordering process. Without a quote, you can't order, and without ordering or the demand to order something, you can't create a quote. So it's always a back-to-back process, which will be done with your ERP system. So the only thing you need to do is to click on what the client wants, and usually this is done by a called quoting team. Create such a quote. So normally you don't have to do that. There are separate teams who do quotes and who then put that together. And what they do is they check the client requirement, and then they click on a certain product in this ERP system. And then they double check if it makes sense from the amount, right? So they double check if the products you want to quote are in the right amount and that they make sense from a technical point of view. So, for instance, if you would click on only 600 line cards, the system would double check, okay, we have only 600 line cards, but we have 810 routers. Something is wrong, and would report that the logic of this quote is not given, and would report you that. Automatically, you see here then, 1 second. So this is the PO. Not here anymore. You see then the terms and conditions. You will not see it here. I have put them into this quote. So normally you see here then the logo, and you see the terms and conditions, and you see the Unity where you can order such a quote. But this is done by an ERP quoting system. Now to get this or to buy this quote, and this is a real example, you will receive a PO, a purchase order, which you see here. This is another example. It's not the one for the quote you see here, which is, but the setup of the quote is always the same. But this is a separate ordering. Oh, sorry, this is the slide for this. So here you see what you also find in the quote, and you see here you get some remarks on the export restrictions, if it is for the US or if it's for Asia Pacific, and you see some remarks on the terms of the payment. You see here the advice on the value-added tax, customs duty, shipping and packing costs, which will be done in a supply chain. And normally these costs you find in such a quote here. So this is the slide that refers to here. So this is what you can see as a second page in this quote. So when you see here, it gives you some information on what's happening and what you can expect if you create now a PO and buy such routers, for instance. And you see here reimbursement, fixed price accordingly, and the information that if a price increase takes happen, that the client will be informed automatically, again through the system. So all payments will be done net. Companies, if you do business to business, do not need to pay value-added tax. Or in some countries you pay tax, but you get it back from the government, or you can withdraw tax. Because in business you normally don't need to pay tax for products, only for services. But you need to have some comments on this part, especially if you deliver in other countries. If you do business in Germany and you deliver to the US or to APEC, you have to advise the client. So you have to write it down, a section on value-added tax. Just 1 second. Just will check the next slide. 1 second. So let's proceed. Just checked my coffee. So this is the client quote. This is just an example for routing. It can be anything. It can be server, hardware, it can be software, it can be routing or switching, can be compute, storage, whatever. For everything you do, even for services, you always need a quote. And this is how it looks like you get it out from an ERP system. And these are the remarks you find in such a quote. And you see here the entity where you can order. You see the banking account where you then can pay if you order such a quote. And you see here, this is important, the VAT ID, value added tax ID. This is important, and you see here a tax number. So each business or transaction you do with a partner company, you have to record, and you have to record that for the legal advisor and for the consulting advisor, and you have to put that in your tax declaration each quarter if you do business in a company. And these are the numbers that you can know. And if you create such a quote, you always need to refer to these numbers, which is called Umsatzsteuer ID. And if you translate that, it's value added tax ID and tax number. So, because at the end of the year, if you then make or create a balance sheet and a profit and loss report, you have to refer to these numbers. And this is enforced legally to make your tax declaration for your company. So, and here you see a typical purchase order, and these purchase orders come automatically via a system called Ariba. So here again, you have an ERP system. This is called Ariba, and it's one part of the ERP system. Ariba is an SAP company. This is one module in ERP, which deals with purchase orders and offers. And purchase orders. But it's an automatic process. So there's someone on the other side who's received a quote, who then clicks via Ariba for an order. And you see here, again, you have some description on what it is. You see here a quick description. You see here if you grant some discounts or percentages, you see the number. You see here the cost center. It's in Germany, so I only have a German version, so I have to translate. So this is the cost center number. This is important when an invoice will be then released, that it goes to the right cost center number, because otherwise the invoice wouldn't be paid. As the payment, the quoting, and the ordering is an automatic process within an ERP system, the people only have to click certain clicks in the system, in the Ariba system, so they don't need to do it manually. It's an automatic process, and this bears the risk that something goes wrong. And this is why you have to check then if everything is okay and if the cost center is right, the tax ID and everything. Otherwise, you will have the problems afterwards. We see also who did request this. Who's the requester, which is this guy here in this case. You see here when was the order required and when is the expected delivery. Here it was ordered at this time, and here's the expected delivery. You see here a supplier ID. This is the number or the ID number for the company who sells the service or the product or the hardware. Again, automatically, also you will find a classifying code. This classifying code will be automatically applied to companies who do business. You see here a quick description. It's difficult to see. I have copied it in, but it's a real PO and it was a real quote. You see the quantity, you see the number per unit, and it is 1 unit. It's the same number for the total amount. If it would be more, it gets automatically multiplied, and you will see here the total amount. Any questions on that? So this is page 2, and this is in the system. So you won't get a letter or something or a fax or anything. You just receive an information from your enterprise resource system telling you that a PO came in. And when you click then on the purchase order, you will see these fields here, which are the basis for any ordering process. So here you see this is for the quote. You see the header page and you see the contact person. And here is the second page of the purchase order. So you see this and this in the Ariba system. So when you see here, it then repeats the information you already have seen, the requester number, and on the bottom you see the total amount. So, and you see here, this is from Deutsche Bank, you see here, when the PDF was created, it arrives as a PDF document. The reason is that it shouldn't be possible to change it afterwards, and that's the reason why you receive it via a PDF document. And you see here also again the timestamps you have in such a PO. And you see here the information that it was sent via Ariba network. So this is the system that generates such POs. And usually by generating such a PO, you have certain people who needs to click OK in the system before it gets or before it will be sent out. And usually these are line manager, manager from purchase, and manager from the line of business. We need to give the OK before this PO can be released. And if it's getting released, everything is done. The next step is then the delivery to the delivery address and a final invoice. So, and then upon this quote, the invoice can be paid. Any questions so far about quote and order? Technical question or questions around the process in ERP? If not, let's move to the supply chain process you have to face if you do or if you deliver goods, IT goods to clients. And you see here, usually you have a module in your ERP system, which is called supply chain management. So this is one part of an ERP system. And remember last time's chart or draft on how an ERP system looks like. One part is SCM, which is supply chain management. And supply chain management takes care if you have such an invoice and such a quote and such a request from someone, like for these routers, for instance, that it makes sure that these routers will now be produced and will be delivered to the final address on the purchase order. So, and for this you need the supply chain management system, and for this you again have a tool or software, a modular software which provides you the process around such a delivery. And also on top of that, you have for certain industries, but you will find that mainly in automobile and in health IT for just-in-time delivery. This means if you have, for example, a part or IT request, or if it's parts for a certain car, which you have in a repair station, which you need very quickly because you're just repairing something, and then you need just-in-time delivery. And the same is in the health industry. If you have, let's say, you need certain medication, you have certain drugs or medication, or let's say clinical devices which you need very urgently, then you will need to require just-in-time delivery. And this means you need to have a proper planning, you need to have a certain warehouse with a certain stock, and you need a logistic process which makes it possible for you to deliver parts or services just in time. However, such a service needs to be planned accordingly, and for such a just-in-time delivery, you have certain key features as part of the supply chain management and as part of an ERP system. So how is this going if we talk about overseas delivery? For instance, if you have delivery via ship, where we all know it takes sometimes weeks to get spare parts or to get certain devices or equipment. It will take some time, and for this you need an intermodal transportation model. Can be with railway, can be with truck, or with cars, and by plane. But you need that to move products which you will need. But the complexity here is now for a router or switch, which you have seen here, right? There's not that urgency, and you see here for, let's say, these products, these network products, you have 1 month time, right, to deliver. So you get the order on the 1st of October, and the client is happy if you deliver it by the end of the month. Even then, you need to think, can you do that? So if you produce a switch in China, it will take around 5 working days, right? But then you have still the shipment to the US or to the Netherlands, Rotterdam. There's a big harbor, and this can take up from 4 weeks to 6 weeks. So, and here you have the time constraint. And if you have just-in-time delivery, it wouldn't even possible. So in reality, such a process here takes at least 6 weeks now, with this global crisis and with the scarce of chips, it's even longer. We have now lead times for network and for server products, which are almost 1 year, so 50 weeks, which is a problem for clients because often they do not have such a long time. So we have in our company lots of escalations because the equipment will not arrive. And this goes back to our sessions from the last weeks, that you need to store something, that you need to do proper forecasting to avoid such situations. So if you procure, for instance, raw materials and you have to transform them into products and distributing them, it costs time. As been seen here, most products will be built together in China or somewhere else in Asia or in the US, and then it will be shipped over. But you need to transforming, and the first thing is to procure raw materials which you also get from certain countries, which will be then brought together in another country. So you get raw materials from across all theaters. So, which will be then assembled in a certain country of origin or built together. And then you still have the time to ship them, which is required. So, and then you need to distribute them. And for this, usually we know 2 streams in a supply chain process, which is an upstream and a downstream. So the question is, what is the difference? So term suppliers, and process for managing relationships with them is usually called upstream supply chain, whereas downstream is more to deliver products to clients. But the way is different. So upstream is from the product assembling to the client, and here it's the other way around, from a client a certain request which will lead to a product build. So and here the problems arise, right? If you have if you build products together and you don't know who's buying them, and you create certain products which you then want to sell, you prepare them and it can take some time, and you bring them on market and someone buys that, but you don't know how much and when. You can make plans with the marketing team and can check, and you can do market research to see what the requirements are, and then you start. And this is a downstream process, or clients come to you, have a certain request and asks you for a certain product or service, and then you start working. This is the other way around. So you have 2 ways to create something and to bring that in a supply chain model. And if you do that, certain inefficiency will come up, and we see them daily, you can say. And the problem is such inefficiencies, which mean someone has a wrong view on the market and on the request from clients. For instance, if you want to buy now a car and you go to a car dealer, they will tell you, yeah, it takes 6 months or 12 months to build up or to set up your car with the request or the setup you want to have because of scarce of resources, because it's simply not there, and also because of a crisis, chip crisis with Qualcomm. They are not able to build chips or to sell them. And if you think about an electronic car like Tesla, where you need 400 to 500 chips within such a car, you have a scarce resource and you can't finish the car. And this can waste time, it can waste energy, it can cost money up to 25%. And the client are not happy because, the prices for cars goes up. And if you see now, if you really want to buy a car and you look into or you go to a car dealer and you want to buy a used car, you will even see here that the prices went up massively. So my car is half a year old. My company car, if they would sell it, they would even get 20% more than the company actually paid for this car. Because they have problems to get things done. And for instance, a car has certain components. It has the engine, it has the seats, it has the color you want, and all the devices you have in such a car, the body and everything. And if there's one part which will be delivered from a sub company and this is missing, you can't finish the car, and that's the problem. And it's the same in IT. If you build up a network and you are missing router switches or you're missing fiber optics and you cannot connect to a wide area network, then you can't finish it, and it's a big problem. And this is why supply chain management is by far the most important part of an ERP system. And the same is for in the health industry, right? They have to postpone surgeries because they're missing some medication or drugs and tools for doing surgeries. And this can also cost time. And there are certain strategies which wouldn't help in our current global situation, but which you can implement in your supply chain and ERP strategy. One is the just in time. So components arrive as they are needed. Going back to the example, when you go to a car repair station and let's say your engine broke or you have problems with your tires, with your wheels, and you need a new one, and you bring it in the morning, you will expect to get your car back by the end of the day. So you will need them in just in time. And you will see that in good repair stations, you can get it at the same day in the afternoon, and they will put it in the spare parts, or they will repair your car, they will change your wheels. Everything is good. This is one of the just-in-time strategies. So, and the other one is if you have finished goods, which can be a car, which can be router, server, switch, whatever, that they can directly shipped or bringing to transferred to the end user if leaving the assembly line. So these are the two versions that can happen. And to avoid problems like we have now globally in each country due to the lack of chips and the Russia crisis, the war, right? It always you will see that most companies have across all industry have kind of a safety stock, which give them a buffer for problems in the supply chain process, and which allows for flexibility. However, such stocks cost money because if you store parts, spare parts, or you store finished goods, you store cars, boats, whatever, devices, operator, medical devices, you always have the problem, especially for server hardware and for notebooks, that the longer they are in a stock, the more outdated they get, which costs you again money. So if you create a stock in a warehouse, for instance, you always have to do a logical planning where the ERP system helps you. You have a question?
No, sorry.
No problem. If you have questions, just interrupt me. So if you have a warehouse, you have to think about the costs this will require. But as has been said, most companies across all industry have a certain stock, but they try to keep the stock level at a minimum to avoid further costs. And if they have further costs, they have to transfer that to the clients, which then makes the products more expensive. If you see in Amazon, they have very big stocks and warehouses where they have almost each and everything, but even they have sometimes issues to get notebooks or cell phones on site. One example, for instance, I don't know whom of you is playing PlayStation. So I'm desperately trying to get a PlayStation 5. And we all know they are on the market for now, I would say 2 years. And still it's almost impossible to get one. Only used ones at a higher price. And still they are not able to deliver the whole demand. And this is an example of a bad supply chain strategy, because you promise something to clients and then you cannot deliver. What also happens often is it's called bullwhip effect, and this happens if you forecast is poor. Because you think certain products will be required, or someone or your clients tell you they need something, and then they withdraw or give you distorted information. And what happens then? It affects or impacts the whole supply chain model. And this happens then from entity to entity. So on top of it, you have a manufacturer, and then you have certain vendors and integrators and other companies in between, and the information flow is poor, and then it comes to misinformation, and then you see an effect which is called bullwhip. What is it? These are fluctuations in demand, and you see it here. It's along a multi-stage supply chain. So this means there are certain sub-companies in between who distorts the picture, who are not providing accurate information. And this happens if you have a poor enterprise resource planning system with a poor supply chain management system. So this is why companies who have a good forecasting and have a good ERP system in place usually do not have these problems. But if someone in the chain has a poor system, which is maybe not automized and which is paper-based, then such problems can arise. So this is then the problem with the lowest chain in a chain. Here you have then problems because not everyone has the same automated system, and the information flow of information is poor due to not updated IT and bad tools in the IT. You see, it's about communication at certain stages, and the further you move then to the end customer who should receive goods, the bigger the problem gets across all stages. You see that here in the picture, right? Usually, you have this upstream and you have this downstream. At the end of the line, you see the client who has a certain demand or request, wants to have something. Let's say notebook, for instance, goes to a certain retailer. You see here already, here you have a two-sided flow of information. Client says, okay, need a certain setup or a certain notebook with a certain speed and storage. And so there's many others. And the retailer just sells the product upon a planning each month. You see here, if here the flow of information is poor, the problem can already start here, the failure. But it can also start here because the retailer then goes to distributors, let's say to IT integrators, for instance, service providers, sell such notebooks or such routers or servers. And also you have a manufacturer like Cisco, Dell, HP, who manufacture this notebook that the client wants to have. And for this, they need, again, certain products and certain resources to build it up and to assemble it. And also here, again, you have the products you need to build something together. You need chips, you need screens and stuff to. And you need some electronic, you need power charge to assemble such a notebook, which this client wants to have, right? And if you already have a lack of information here or here, this problem goes back and forth like a bullwhip. And the problem is this delay not only delays the final delivery to this client here, it also can create miscommunication and misunderstandings, which then leads to problems or to wrong deliveries on the client side. And you see here it amplifies per stage. And you can see here there are a lot of stages in between in this whole process. And on each stage, something can happen. And if an ERP system is not well integrated, this is why ERP integration is very important. Such problems can happen, and it can happen across all industry. It's not just the IT industry. It can happen for food, nutrition, health industry, automobile, so almost everything. And this is independent from an ERP system. The ERP system is the basis, but also even the ERP system is based on information you put in. So if you put in the wrong information or you do it not accurate, even the ERP system can't help you. But if you do proper forecasting, and you have a proper planning, and the ERP system is assisting you to get proper planning together, then it's easier for you to get the right information out of the ERP system and the supply chain management system. So you see, it depends on each stage, it depends on each system, and if it's not been done properly, problems will arise. You see here, it can cause fluctuations, and it can amplify these issues, because here are probably many thousand clients, right, who want something from a certain retailer. And so if it would be only one, you might could solve it. But if you have thousands of clients, the problem amplifies. And then the problem goes back and forth. If you have one problem here or miscommunication, and let's say the manufacturer a certain notebook, bring it to distribution and to the retailer, and the client says it's wrong one and sends it back, then the costs arise. And maybe you can remember, or when you order something and you get the wrong part, let's say from eBay or from Amazon, you wanted to have something and it's wrong. I mean, it does not happen very often, but if it happens, and you have to send it back, it costs more time. The retailer has to check what went wrong, the distributor, and then maybe sooner or later it goes back to the manufacturer, and all this effect costs money. And it can create excess inventory if you have a bad planning for distributors, but also for retailers, manufacturers, and suppliers. So, so what can you do to avoid that? You need planning systems and you need execution systems. And to plan that, you need to do a demand planning, and the demand planning will be done by forecasting. And remember the last session we had, here you had to do a forecast. You had to check which revenues or which products will be needed at which time, when, for which clients, in which region, in which section, and then you have to plan it. And forecasting, demand planning will be done each day, each month, quarterly, and at the year end. So, but this is an automatic process. You don't need to do that manually. Usually you can do that in a system, and you do that by checking the requirements, and normally marketing is helping you, and market research, but also the clients. So companies who do business to business ask the business clients, okay, what will be expected? When do you plan which project? Which products will you need? And then the clients tell you, okay, I need this and this with a probability of 50%. And then you have a number which you can put in the system, and across all the supply chain in here, everyone gets the information about your forecast and has it also at the same time in the system, and then a proper planning can be done. And even if then the client draws back certain forecasted products, another client will increase and another client will decrease, and so but at the end of the day it somehow levels out. So forecasting is by far the most important part, and if it's done properly, you can avoid bullwhip effects or low or high inventory levels which cost additional money. And you can identify transportation modes by car, by plane, by train, whatever is the best possible model for delivery. And for this, you need a planning system, and you need an execution system on how you execute delivery, final delivery to clients. So that's for today for supply chain. We will proceed next week, and I will come over on the 8th of 9th and 9th of June. So let me check my calendar. So 1 second, I come over in June, and it will be the 2nd. So for those who will be there, would be happy to see you all. It's I will come on Wednesday, the 8th of June. We'll stay then until the 10th, so Friday afternoon, and then I drive back to Frankfurt. So I would be happy to see some of you guys, and then we can do some practical examples, can do group work, and we see each other, so which will be a good thing. So it's the first time after 2 years. So I started when they built up the campus 6 years ago, and I was always on site for all these sessions. And in the past 2 years, we have only done it remotely and via Teams. So it will be the first time again.